Hey, my lovely friends. Today I'm back with another English video lesson where I'll teach you some vocabulary words. I've created quite a few video lessons with Dr. Sam Harris. I hope you enjoy this one too.
It's only, I mean, I'll grant you that the term preference is deflationary.
The first word of the lesson is deflationary. Typically, we use this word in economics to talk about a reduction, a decrease in the supply of money. And as a result of that, usually there is a decrease in activity in general. But he's using the term deflationary to talk about a reduction in the value of something. So he says using the term preference is reductive, it is
But
deflationary.
it's only deflationary because we reserve it for things that don't really matter, right? The moment you make things matter more and more and more and more and more, and you get into the territory of the worst possible misery for everyone versus its antithesis,
Antithesis is the polar opposite of a situation. For instance, consider abject misery. Its antithesis would be a state of bliss, perfect happiness.
some sublime state of satisfaction that endures for as long as possible for everyone capable of it.
Some sublime state of satisfaction. Sublime is a good adjective and it is used to describe this situation where everyone is happy and it endures, it lasts a long time.
And the difference, the gulf that opens up between those two states of the
The gulf that opens up, the difference, the large difference that becomes manifest. Gulf is a good word to learn, but also pay attention to the preposition there to use it more accurately. A gulf between two things, two ideas.
universe or any, microcosm within that universe, that gulf is not to traverse that gulf is with the term preference is just it seems like a misuse of how we use that term, right?
So let's talk about the word traverse. Traverse is to go a certain distance along a particular path or on a particular terrain. Traverse is a verb that must be used with an object or in the passive structure. We call these verbs in English transitive verbs. So that golf is traversed, or a person can traverse that gulf. Traverse, page the stress there as well. Traverse, traverse. So he says that traversing this gulf, bridging this gap, using the word preference is a misuse of this term. It's not the right way to use the word preference to bridge that gap, to close that gap.
It only seems deflationary because of what we do with it, but yes, it's what matters, the fact of mattering, the objective fact of anything mattering is a subjective reality. I'll grant you that. I mean, this is the split between ontological and subjectivity.
Ontology is a branch of philosophy where philosophers discuss what it means for something to exist. Ontology. And he says, I'll grant you that. A lot of the time in discussions or debates, people will say, I'll grant you that. It means I will concede this point or I will give credit to the point that you have just raised.
And objectivity. It's not a matter for rocks and quasars. It's a matter for conscious systems to notice the difference in, right? So without consciousness, the world of value goes away, right?
Okay, so he presupposes that consciousness is the phenomenon that gives rise to all these different concepts, such as morality, right and wrong, good and evil. This is the bedrock of the argument consciousness.
Right? It's got to matter to someone, somewhere, somehow, at least possibly, right? So if it's, I would grant that it could potentially affect an experience as opposed to actually affect an experience and still matter. But if there's something out there that couldn't possibly affect anyone's experience, now or in the future, no matter what happens, well, then that thing doesn't matter, right? But by definition, in my world, yeah. I mean, so it's not a bug of my view. Rather, it's a feature that it captures what we care about, in my view, in when we talk about right and wrong, good and evil.
Yeah. A bug is a fault. He is arguing that this is not a fault. It's not a flaw. It's not the downside of his argument, but rather a strength. This is something that gives importance to his argument. It's a feature, not a bug, but a feature.
Yeah. And I think it does. You can talk about should and duty, but those are, I will grant, it's not a lot hinges on whether that strand of the conversation succeeds for me. Like I like
Okay, so this is a great term. When you say not a lot hinges on, it means that the consequences aren't all that important because hinge means to depend, and it typically goes with a preposition on. Not a lot hinges on that strand of or that line of thinking. So the consequences of that line of thinking are not all that critical or important. Anyways, I hope you've learned at least one word with my video lesson. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you believe that what I'm doing on this channel is valuable. Thanks.